Hello, this is your host, Ayana Major Bay. Welcome to the Artist Pivot Podcast. Y'all, this is a very special episode. This is episode 100 of the Artist Pivot Podcast. Woo! Yes! Yay! Y'all, I made it to 100 episodes. 100 episodes. Wow. Thank you, everyone, for rocking with me. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Thank you so much for your support. 100 episodes. Yes. So today, we're going to do a little celebration, of course, but I just attended a couple weeks ago the Essence Festival of Culture in New Orleans. So the city was just full of beautiful Black people celebrating our culture, celebrating our contributions, celebrating our music, and just everything. And I was so fortunate to be in the room with the one and only Ava DuVernay, the film producer, maker, writer, all of the above. And her talk back was so inspiring. And I'm just so happy that I was able to be in the room. Like, me and my friends were actually the last ones let into the room because there were so many people. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to share some of her insights she shared and things that are still resonating with me here on this episode today. All right, y'all, let's get into it. Come take a listen and let your inner artist play. Creating your dreams step by step every day. If you're feeling lost and don't know what to do, always remember that you can pivot to the Artist Pivot. The Artist Pivot. Hello, and welcome to the Artist Pivot Podcast. I am your host, Ayana Major Bay, a multi-hyphenated artist, and I am glad you are here. A couple housekeeping things before we get into the conversation. First, to keep up to date on all the things happening with the podcast, subscribe to the monthly newsletter at ayanabay.com/podcast. Second, to show your support for the show, you can get podcast merchandise at ayanabay.com/merch. And third, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and share this with at least one person. Enjoy the episode. We Audition is the video chat community where actors can audition, self-tape, rehearse, and get expert industry advice. Get instant self-tape readers through video chat, browse through the dedicated actor meditations, podcasts, and books, meet casting directors in the virtual green rooms, and also make money by becoming a reader for other actors. If you join We Audition and use code PIVOT, you will receive a 25% discount on your membership. Link in the show notes. So as I said in the intro, it's episode 100! Woo! Episode 100 of the Artist Pivot Podcast. Wow. If I'm honest, y'all, I didn't even think about episode 100 when I started this back in September of 2020. But we're here. I know the episode is marked as like season 6, episode 10, because yes, we are in season 6 of the Artist Pivot Podcast. But as a collective, it's the 100th episode of this show. Yeah, I'm going to take a second and sit in that. I am. Wow. Thank you all so much for listening, so much for supporting, for, letting me know when an episode resonates with you. Like, I appreciate that so much. So please do. And when an episode resonates with you, please email me, ayana@theartistpivot.com. You can also go to my website, ayanabay.com, and reach me there. Instagram, you can DM me on Instagram. Like, please let me know. Like, that makes me happy and helps me to keep going when I hear someone say, "Oh, I needed to hear that conversation, Ayana." Like, Yeah, that hit home. I needed to hear that I wasn't alone in trying to navigate this industry and also just trying to navigate life as an artist, like we choose to be artists. We choose to use our gifts and make art with them, no matter the medium. And it's hard in this society, right? But we choose to. And so, yeah, that's what I'm here for, to help other artists. And also in these conversations, I'm also talking to myself, y'all. Like I'm talking to myself, even in writing out the description or my talking points for this episode from what Ava said. I was like, right. Right. I'm talking to my own self right now. Okay. And so, yeah, I just want to say thank you. Thank you all for making this podcast what it is. And here's to 100 more episodes, right? We just getting started. We just getting started. Here's to 100 more episodes of the Artist Pivot Podcast. Yes. 100 episodes. 100 episodes, y'all. And here's to 100 more. Cheers. Right. So in this episode, I wanted to get into kind of some inspiration that I received and am holding on to and that I am cherishing from the Essence Festival in New Orleans. So this year was its 30th birthday. It was the 30th year of the Essence Festival in New Orleans, and it's held in New Orleans every year. It's held on July 4th weekend every year, and it is a festival of Black culture and music. And y'all, 500,000 people descend onto the city of New Orleans. 500,000 people descend. 99% of them Black, 99.5% of them Black, right? Descend onto the city of New Orleans. And it was a grand time. I went with my sister, and we've been wanting to go for years. And so we made it happen. And it was an incredible experience. So you have the convention center during the day where you get to go to talkbacks and get free products. And my sister and I, y'all, we made out like bandits. We both came back with about 12 pounds of products. You heard me, 12 pounds of products. I'm actually going to do a recap of my trip on my other podcast, The World Is Your Stage. So I'll put a link to that podcast in these show notes. Also follow me on my Instagram, Ayana Mbe. I'll do some recaps and things. But I do want to do an episode about like kind of recapping, but also the things that I've learned as a first-time attendee of the Essence Festival. So look out for that. Again, I'll put that podcast in these show notes so you can get the lowdown on the trip, okay? But we did make out like bandits with getting products. But then we went to the concerts, right? So like Usher was a headliner, Janet Jackson, Victoria Monet, a New Orleans band that I love, Tank and the Bangers. Like, there were so many acts each night. So it was full of, again, celebrating our culture and our contribution and music, the love that we have for each other, like all of that. And so I'm kind of on a high, from it. But there were a couple of things that I wanted to share. So one of the first ones was I made it an intention to go to one of the meditation sessions in the morning. So so Essence Festival on the calendar had starting your day with a meditation session. And I'm a big meditator. And now I could say now I'm a big meditator. I started about 4 years ago in the pandemic, right? And actually, wait, this makes me think of, what episode number is it? Shoot. It's in the first season, y'all. It is Celicia Thomas. And we literally talk about meditation and like finding meditation and going, oh my gosh, it's like having a vacation in the middle of the day. Yeah, I don't know what episode number that is. I want to say it's like episode like 7 or 8. Oh my goodness, y'all. But Celicia Thomas in season 1, we literally talk about finding meditation in the pandemic, right? And it being, a little bit of a vacation. And so, yes, now I'm a big meditator 4 years in, and I'm in love. And so Essence Fest had a meditation session like scheduled if you'd like to attend. So I did. And it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. And I'll actually link the facilitators of the session, I'll link them in the show notes so you can go look at their page as well. But it was one of those, it left me with remembering that my creativity is innate and to release. Just release. There's so many things happening in the world. There's so many requirements put on us. There's so much. But if we don't release and let things flow, our creativity is not going to flow. And, that's one of the things. I took away many things from that meditation, but that is one of the things that I think is relevant that I took away from that meditation is you can't let your creativity flow. You can't let your creativity flow if you're holding on, if you're gripping so bad, if, you don't breathe, literally just breathe in and out. You can't let your creativity flow. So I wanted to share that with someone today because it's true. It's true. Our creativity as artists will not flow if we don't breathe, if we're not present, if we're not aware, if we're not figuring out what our body is telling us and understanding that, hey, I might need a little bit of a break right now. And yes, I may have a project due, or I'm trying to work on my own project, so I have deadlines. But understanding that resting and being present is a part of the journey, right? Is a part of your creativity, is a part of resting and releasing and being able to give your gifts to the world. You got to do some resting and releasing, right? So I just wanted to share that because that meditation, I'm still kind of thinking about that, right? And the next thing that I am so fortunate to say that I was in the room with the one and only Ava DuVernay, right? So here's the thing about Essence Festival. There's so much. I had so many talks in my little calendar on the Essence Festival app. I went to two. I went to the meditation session and then this talk with Ava DuVernay because I was like, oh, I have to be in the room with her, right? There's so many things I wanted to see. The cast of this was there and this person was there talking about this and there's just so much. I also didn't even get to screen some of the movies. I was like, oh, okay, I'll try to catch this movie at 3:00. I think I'm just going to have to go back and just be like, I'm just going to watch the movies this year. Okay, and then next year, I'm just going to just do all the talks. There's so much, right? But this talk, I am so happy that I was able to be in the room, be in the room, in the same energy as Ava DuVernay, sharing space, sharing breath, sharing air, sharing energy with her, right? And so if y'all don't know who she is, which I think might be a little crazy, but if you don't know who Miss Ava DuVernay is, she's a filmmaker, she's a screenwriter, she's a producer, she's won some Emmys, she's been a nominee, I know, for an Academy Award and a Golden Globe, and she has founded her independent distribution company called Array, right? But you may know her because she has written and directed Origin, Selma, When They See Us, 13th, A Wrinkle in Time, and Queen Sugar. Y'all, my show, Queen Sugar. Ooh, she was the creator of that. Yes, ma'am, that's my show. I love that show. So those are some of the things that, Ava has done just to give you her resume, just to flex on her, okay? Because I'm going to flex on Ava. And so I got into the room, into the talk back. My friends and I were the last people let into the room, right? And just to hear her speak. So she was talking about the movie Origin. And if you haven't seen it, my suggestion is to go see it. I love it. It's about the caste system and how things, we talk about race in the world, but this is looking at how things can actually be more than race. They're about caste systems, right? Anywho, she was talking about Origin and the makings of Origin, right? And so one of the things that I took away was she was saying, as artists, we don't lean into the time when we're free. We don't lean into the time when we're in our early stages, if you will. And she actually called this glorious times and sacred ground. I'm going to say that again. She said they are glorious times and sacred ground. We don't realize the sacred ground that we're standing on when we're doing something independently, when we don't have strings attached, when we don't have big studios or big theaters or big names attached to these things, right? And you're able to do what you want. And so we're always looking at whatever pinnacle we're trying to reach, but we're not aware of and bask in the freedom of what we have and where we are when we're just getting started, or you're choosing to do things independently. And so I know, even for me, with this podcast as well, it's like I do this independently, but I will shout out, thank you, Boundless Audio Network. I am a part of that network, so I'm not, I am independent, but I have a network supporting me who lets me keep my independence. So shout out to Boundless Audio Network. But leaning into when you're either starting or choosing to do things independently, the amount of freedom that you have, and to know that this is sacred ground. Like, I'm going to keep, I actually wrote that down to be like, Ayana, remember, when you're doing things independently and you don't have these strings attached, you're on sacred ground, because you don't have to answer to anybody but yourself. Right? I don't have to answer to anybody but myself. I am the executive producer and host of this show. I have an amazing editor. Hey, Kieran. And I do what I want, how I want, when I want it. I can switch things around, right? And so, this is sacred ground. And so I want to encourage someone today to I'm not saying do not aim for pinnacles. Not saying that at all. What I am saying is, let's take the advice of Miss Ava DuVernay and be like, oh, I'm on sacred ground while I'm trying to reach that pinnacle, right? Being able to do this independently, oh, I should bask in this. And she actually talked about that's why they produced Origin independently, because they wanted to get back to that sacred ground. They wanted to get back to the glorious times when things were free, when they could make decisions for themselves and they weren't beholden to other people's opinions or money or anything else, but going, no, we're going to do this the way we want to do this, and nobody can say anything about it. And so I was like, oh, that's a point I'm taking, leaning into doing what you got to do for yourself and doing it independently, right? Doing it with your community, doing it with the people around you who believe in your projects, right? And that actually brings me to the next point of she referenced really believing in yourself and whatever project you're doing, because there will always be pushback, right? And so she actually wanted to shoot the movie Origin on film and not with a digital camera, but shoot it on actual film. But people were telling her it's too expensive, it's going to take too much time, yada, yada, all of the no's, right? But she was 10 toes down for her vision. She was like, no, I'm going to shoot this movie on film. I want it on film. I don't want it on digital, right? And she did, and they shot the movie on film. And it's one of those things of being 10 toes down for your vision and not letting people's fears. Shout out to Alexis Tidwell Bailey, last episode 609. We literally just talked about not adopting other people's fears. And so Ava didn't adopt nobody's fear about filming the entire movie on film. She was like, this is my vision. This is what I want. I'm gonna do it. And ignoring the people who were like, but film is this and da-da-da-da, you should do digital and da-da. I'm not adopting anybody else's fears on my vision, right? And this actually reminds me, I don't know if anybody saw the Beyonce film, basically the making of, Renaissance and the Renaissance tour. But there was a moment where people were questioning her, well, are you sure you want to do that? Or actually that doesn't exist. I think she was asking for a certain camera lens for the show, and someone told her, we don't have that. And you know what Beyonce did? She went and looked it up online, and the next meeting she was like, actually they do have it, here it is. And it was like, now please go do what I want. I know what I'm talking about. And it's one of those things which also is they're both Black women. Ava DuVernay is a Black woman, Beyonce's a Black woman, I'm a Black woman. People like to question our opinions and our thoughts sometimes. And I'm in a good mood, so I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But y'all really like to question Black women. I don't know why, but it's we said what we said and we mean what we said. And also, for the Black women that I hang around, I'm not going to speak for every Black woman in the world, but for the Black women I hang around, when they say something, they've done their research. They've gone on Google. They've gone on Pinterest. They've gone on Instagram. Honey, we are FBI agents in our research, right? So when I say something, I mean it. And I'm 10 toes down because, baby, I did my research, right? And so Ava did her research. Beyonce did her research. So it's one of those things, especially as a Black woman, be 10 toes down for your project and in your belief system of your own project, because people will come for you. And you have to politely decline and be like, no, thank you. I didn't ask you for your fears. Period. So yeah, I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole. I'm not gonna, because that's a can of worms. Like I said, I'm jolly today, coming back from Essence Fest. Okay, so we're not gonna go down that. But just everybody, especially Black women, but every creative, every artist, be 10 toes down for your vision. Period. Okay. So now, to close the talk, Ava was asked to give a word of advice, right? And so I imagine that if I had her on this podcast, if Ava DuVernay was a guest on the Artist Pivot, right, this would be her little nugget of wisdom, as I ask every guest at the end. So she said, and I quote, I had to write it down, "There is no one coming to save you. There is no one coming to help you other than yourself and the community that you create. We got to stop looking at these studios. We got to stop looking at these distributors and people with money. How can you within yourself harness the power that the universe and God has bestowed upon you to do what you were meant to do? And you might dabble in it and be like, I thought it was for me, but it really isn't. And that's okay too. But if it's for you, it will be yours as long as you're not looking over there." Let me say that again because I messed up. I said, but if it's for you, it will be yours as long as you're not looking over there. Look at where you are, look where you stand, plant your feet, and proceed. Ma'am, that's a whole word. That's an entire word. Ava was preaching, child. Okay, like that was Ava's nugget of wisdom. That was her word of advice. Because what? Nobody's coming to save us except for yourself and the community that you build. That's like what? Right. Stop looking at these studios and these theaters and the Wow. Y'all, I'm writing this out because, hey, I recorded the video. So it will be on the Instagram for the podcast. I will put the actual video of her saying this on the Instagram. So like you could go follow the Artist Pivot on Instagram. So it'll be there. But I'm going to actually read it again for y'all. This is what Ava DuVernay said out her mouth. And there's no one coming to save you, and there's no one coming to help you other than yourself and the community you create. We got to stop looking at these studios. We got to stop looking at these distributors and people with money. How can you within yourself harness the power that the universe and God has bestowed upon you to do what you were meant to do? And you might dabble in it and be like, I thought it was for me, but it really wasn't. That's okay too. But if it is for you, it will be yours as long as you're not looking over there. Look at where you are. Look where you stand, plant your feet, and proceed. What also gets me is, right, if you're not looking over there. We have to stay in our lanes, y'all. We have to look what is in front of us. What did the universe give us? What are we supposed to put out into the world, especially as artists? Y'all, we got so many ideas and so many things. What do we need to put out in the world that only we can do, right? Only we can do. Like, that's it, period. So stop looking over there. And in the video, Ava sure does. She does a whole arm reach. Stop looking over there, right? But we do. And hey, I'm going to raise my hand. There are definitely times I fall into the trap of comparison and, oh, well, shouldn't I be there? Like this person is, shouldn't I be? And it's like, but that's not my life. That's not my journey. And so I need to look at where I'm at. I need to look at my lane. I need to look at the gifts that I was given. I need to look at what's in front of me. I need to look at where I'm standing right now, right? And who's around me. Who in my community can I be like, hey, do you want to collaborate on something? Hey, do you want to do this project with me? Hey, do you want to help me with it? Like, who do you have? Like, who do you have around you that can help you and build with, right? And so look at where you are. Look where you stand, plant your feet, and proceed. Be 10 toes down for your stuff. Like, be 10 toes down. And I'm so thankful that I got to be in that room with Ava and hear that advice, right? And I'm so thankful. So thankful for it. Like I said, I'll post those videos on Instagram of her saying that quote. And then I have another one when she says it's sacred ground. I recorded that too. So I have two different videos because I was trying to be present. See, look at that. The meditation came in. I was like, I'm not recording this whole thing. I'm not going to be on my phone. I want to be present. And it was like a half an hour talk. And so I recorded those two videos, one at the beginning and one at the end, because I was like, I want to be present and in the space with Ava DuVernay and everybody else who's in this room trying to get the nuggets of wisdom, right? And so, yeah, I'll post those two on the Instagram. But I just wanted to share that, y'all, with my little inspiration from Essence Fest and being in the room with the amazing Ava DuVernay, right? Yeah, y'all stand 10 toes down for your projects. Stand 10 toes down for yourself. Like, let's just start there. For yourself. 10 toes down for yourself. And to understand that your creativity comes from you, like as a human being, as a person in this world, and there's nobody like you. There's nobody that has your story. Tell your story in whatever way it is, through a podcast, through a song, through music, through dance, through whatever it is, even behind the scenes, makeup artists, costume designers, sound designers, like everybody in the arts tells a story with what they do, right? And yeah, that is what I wanted to share today. Thank you so much again for rocking with me. This was episode 100 of the Artist Pivot Podcast. I can't believe I'm saying that. Episode 100. And here's to 100 more, y'all. Here's to 100 more. Thank you so much for listening. I'll talk to you next time. This podcast is produced by Ayana Major Bay. Editor is Kieran Niement. Theme song lyrics written by Ayana Major Bay and Melissa Victor, with performance by Ayana Major Bay. Please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
Part of the Boundless Audio Podcast Network.